Welcome back, guys. Today's video is on why I don't fully love my Toyota GR Yaris. Story begins with my BMW. Now, I bought my BMW more than a year and a half ago. That car blew me away entirely as soon as I got it. In fact, as soon as I test drove it, I was head over heels, and that's why I kind of overpaid for it as well. And I think that's the case for a lot of people when they buy these nice European cars. It's that whole packaging, right? You get to the car, you look outside, and it blows you away, especially the Beamers. You know, I've got a soft spot for them. And then when you sit inside and you touch the materials, you touch the leather, and just the way it's designed, right? It's designed to really pull at something. I don't know how they do it, but they do it well. So as soon as I sort of saw the car, got into it, I was blown away. And then I drove it. It was love at first sight. And it's a few things, right? It's that N55 motor that my BMW M235i had, which is really one of BMW's best sounding modern day motors. It was a ZF8 gearbox, which had a bunch of different configurations. In Sport Plus mode, kick at the backside, and in Comfort mode, it was nice and creamy and buttery. And then it was that M Performance exhaust. I mean, guys, if you haven't driven one of those cars, it's, you know, even now I think about it often. In fact, I was thinking about it last night for some reason, just remembering it for the good car that it was, and the exhaust was ever tunable, right? Then obviously you've got the low down torque. Germans do really good in the low RPMs, and they really give you that torque to get up and go. That car made torque. It felt as if from idle, right? You could step on it from idle and it would just take off. So all of that combined with the badge, with the way the car looked, the way it felt, and I think I was head over heels for it more than any other car, in fact. And in some ways, I think it was even better than my Mazda MX-5 Miata, which I loved and I enjoyed a lot. I think a Miata is a true definition of a sports car. I believe if you even go to Wikipedia, that's probably one of the first things they would say. And the M235i by no means is as focused as a Miata, right? That's more based on a regular 3 Series, 2 Series platform. It's a luxury car first and a sports car second, but boy, does it make you feel good. But unfortunately, with that BMW, I started to get mechanical issues. In fact, the very first day that I bought that car, I had mechanical issues. It was just like clockwork, guys, every 3 months. Now, with that car, it wasn't major mechanical issues, right? And I don't subscribe to the part of the group that says BMW is absolute trash. I'm kind of, you know, I'm somewhere in the middle where I think buying a used German car like a BMW, Audi, Mercedes, maintenance you have to expect, and it is correct. The maintenance is very high. And maintenance, I mean, you know, belts, brakes, all that jazz, regular stuff, oil, fluids. But I think you also have to contend with repairs, right? And then there's the unlucky few who will have to contend with major repairs like a gearbox change or an engine rebuild, Valvetronic, Camtronic, camshaft issues. So I think that's a rare part of the ownership experience with high mileage abused examples. But I think any German car you buy used is going to give you some level of problems, especially probably 7 years plus. You open yourself up to that. So I got rid of it, but I loved that car, right? I think it's very much correct to say that I was in love with that car. As I got rid of it, I started cross-shopping, right? I test drove a bunch of cars, and I knew with my experience with my BMW that I needed more stability. My second car is a Toyota Corolla Cross. That's what I use for the family, and I thought I would be okay using a less reliable car for myself. But the truth is, guys, I use my car as a daily. I use it to go to the gym, to go to work. Anything I'm doing, even taking the family out, I use my own car, right? I enjoy driving my cars. And if I leave it to the weekend, I'm, you know, very much anxious, right? I need to drive my vehicle. I knew after the BMW it had to be something reliable, preferably under warranty, to be honest, guys, because the BMW was my second ever car outside of warranty. The other car I owned out of warranty was a Suzuki Swift Sport Turbo. And if you know anything about those cars, especially in manual, super reliable, super bulletproof as the brand Suzuki is. So I cross-shopped the Subaru BRZ GR86 Toyota. That was within my price range. I had the BMW M240 with the B58 that was in my price range, but it wouldn't be an under warranty example, and I just, you know, even with the B58, and you know, this is where I'm a bit different. I think even with a B58, you're gonna have issues. My whole issue was with my car wasn't the N55, it was just age and BMW, right? And the B58 would still be a F-Series chassis, and I'd run into the same issues again, no doubt, and the high maintenance. So BMW wasn't so much of an option. I was thinking of the BMW M135i X-Drive, and that's a good car. I could have gotten an in-warranty version, but that's kind of straddling the line because I think the BMW community doesn't accept you when you drive an M135 X-Drive, which has a B48 motor. It's basically a Mini. I still love those cars. The BMW community doesn't accept you, the car community doesn't really accept it as a BMW, and so a big part of car culture is driving something that has a story, that has a level of acceptance. And probably that's a shallow viewpoint, but that is something I thought about, and I thought, it's probably not the car for me. And then I test drove the GR Yaris, and truth be told, guys, it did not blow me away the first time I drove it, or even the second time I test drove it, right? When you come from a German car like a BMW or an Audi or Mercedes, a lot of these Japanese cars will feel like a step back, right? You really have to get into some of the heavy-hitting Jap cars to feel like, wow, this is good. Obviously you've got the LFA, but then you've got the Lexus LC500 or the Lexus F Sport F models, right? ISF, RCF. That sort of stuff is really going to give you that close German feel. LFA is going to blow away any German car today, really. LC500 is also very good. But that's kind of how it's going to be with Japanese cars. I don't want to sugarcoat it. They're just not going to feel the way a German car feels. And now we get to why I'm not totally in love with my GR Yaris. First thing is the philosophical reason. Philosophically, guys, I think we're very lucky to live in a society, be in a part of the world where we can actually own cars. Very blessed by God, because there's a large portion of the population that don't own cars, right? So we have that going for us. Also, we're in a position where we can aspire to better cars and aspire to upgrade, right? Obviously, it's a huge blessing, but that opens us up to greed and never being satisfied, right? And I think a lot of car people are in this loop. There's always another car out there. We're always thinking about the next car. That's one of the issues that's always been the case with my cars. Now, I said my BMW, I was head over heels, but it would be remiss for me to not admit that, yeah, I thought about the BMW M2 and I thought about it often, right? That was going to be the next step. And that's kind of where I am with the GR Yaris as well, where I think, geez, this is a good car, but there's so many cars I want to try. Civic Type R, GR Corolla would be better fit. I'd have the extra doors. Maybe a German car like an Audi RS3, that would be a really big step up. But financially, I think with my mindset, I'd have to be doing extremely well to get an RS3 and be okay with the depreciation hit that you get with that level of car. But I think that would be a real solid upgrade. There should always be an element of being content with what you have, and I am thankfully content with what I have. I'm very thankful for it, but by the same token, I do have that want to go to the next car. Next reason I'm not fully in love with it is the exhaust. Now, I came from a BMW, obviously, and I think nothing's going to come close south of it. Even the Porsches are not going to be as good as BMW exhausts until you get into the nicer exhaust Porsches. Especially the N55 with the M exhaust is a killer, right? And that's the deal with the GR Yaris. Now, the engine note in the GR Yaris for a 3-banger, guys, beautiful. I actually enjoy it quite a bit. It's got its own character. Sounds like a boxer motor. It's really nice, really rumbly, really rough. I enjoy it a lot. It's got a hydraulic engine mount, a third mount to smooth it out, but it's still pretty rough. But I like that roughness. It truly feels like you're in a rally car doing a rally stage, right? As far as the engine and intake and turbo sounds are concerned, there's nothing in the exhaust. You hear nothing. And you've got those thick tailpipes in the GR Yaris, pumping. There's nothing, right? So that's sort of one of the things. I think sound is a big element of being a car guy. BMW had a lot of effortless power, and it went both ways, because you got that low down torque, but then when you wanted to rev it out, yes, it wasn't great being revved right. That's where the GR Yaris is indeed better, but you could still do it. Have fun in both scenarios. You get your torque, you get your high red line. The GR Yaris, you've got no torque low down. Everything's reliant on red line, which, guys, I prefer, right, as a race engine, especially when I'm doing mountain runs. As a race engine, I think this is superior in that way. I would like the option of having that low down torque as well, right? And that would be really nice, driving around and I get that nice low down torque. All right, guys, you might have noticed that my clothes have changed, and maybe I'm a little bit tanner, and that's because my camera died. It's the Melbourne summer, and these GoPros, I film on a GoPro Hero 12, and they seem to get really hot no matter what I do, and it seems as if I can't make it through probably a 15-minute video before the camera just gets overheated. So anyways, I've decided to do this on another day, and that's why I look a bit different. So the final thing that I kind of dislike about my Toyota GR Yaris, the nannies that Toyota have put in it. Now, I've made another video where I cover some of these things, but effectively the car is boost limited in first and second gear, and really, unless you're launching it at 5,000, 5,500 RPM, dumping the clutch, and which is a terrible thing to do for an all-wheel drive car. I don't care what all-wheel drive car you have. If it's manual and you're doing 5.5K launches, the clutch is not going to survive for a very long time, right? So unless you're doing that, the car doesn't give you full boost in first gear, right? Often it continues into second gear, and really third gear is where you get full boost. And in Australia, that's kind of pointless, guys, because second gear tops out at around 100 kilometers an hour. And Australian speed limits mostly are, even on a freeway, 80 to 100 k's an hour, right? Very rarely do you get 110, and I think 110 might actually be the highest speed limit in Victoria. And the ticketing and policing system here is pretty tough. You should always anyways drive to the speed limit, and if you don't, you'll get a pretty hefty fine. Which means that you can't really enjoy the true boost and power of this vehicle, right? It's very much limited, which is unfortunate. These are road cars first, right? And the GR Yaris, yes, it's a rally car. Yes, it's a race car, but it's still a road car first, and I want to enjoy that power in the first 2 gears, and it just doesn't let me get it every time. I've gone to the forums, I've spoken to people, I've spoken to Toyota about it. It's tuning, guys. It's the way they've tuned this car. A lot of tuners can go mess with the settings and give you that full boost, but then you probably impact reliability, right? And the whole point of buying a Toyota is so you get that reliability. And this car, I believe, is offered with a 10-year warranty in many countries. And I believe part of the reason for that 10-year warranty is the fact that Toyota have put those nannies in, right? They've made this car much more conservative through putting that boost cutoff. I think it takes away from the joy a fair bit. I don't know if the GR Corolla has it. I believe the second gen GR Yaris that is coming out or has just come out has fixed that. I can't confirm. And speaking to owners, guys, a lot of people just don't push these cars hard enough to even notice, right? Not everyone's driving this car like a rally car effectively. Does that push me away from the car, to be honest, guys? I don't know if it's Stockholm Syndrome, but I kind of like that about it now. It's, you know, a Toyota thing. I'm thinking, yeah, nice Toyota, you're protecting the drivetrain. My BMW, for example, it always gave me full boost no matter what was happening. Warm, cold, whatever the case is, it always gave me full boost. And the GR Yaris is not the same. So that's probably the last reason. Now I do want to touch on why this is actually my favorite car. Now I know the title of this video, it says, why I don't love my GR Yaris. Out of all the cars I've owned, this is my favorite car. The reason, guys, is firstly, it's a Toyota. Now a lot of this might be cope, right? If you're not a Toyota or JDM fan, you might not understand. But Toyota has built a reputation of reliability, and my dad's owned Toyotas and I've owned Toyotas for a long time, right? My second car is a Toyota. And I've driven Toyota Camrys for work, and then I owned a Toyota Camry, right? Even though I'm a very sports and performance focused person, and a Camry is the last thing in terms of performance, I can definitely vouch for that, having owned and driven many Camrys. I just always respected that, right? So I've got that Toyota ethos. I think it's pretty cool that in today's era, we get to drive a Toyota product that has and is able to compete with the Germans. That's so rare in the 2000s, and Toyota had nothing, right? Yes, it was a Lexus ISF and the RCF, but Toyota itself had nothing. And then the BRZ came, but the BRZ is a Subaru, right? And the Toyota 86 is really a Subaru. And then the Supra came, and that's the BMW. This is really Toyota giving you that Toyota experience. It goes back to one of the negatives I was talking about, right? Where they put these nannies in and they're doing these boost cutoffs. But if anything, it gives you even more faith into the car, right? So I think that's a huge part of why this is my favorite car. In fact, it might be the biggest part of why this is my favorite car. The second part is just the story. Guys, I haven't owned a car that has such a strong heritage, right? I've owned a Mazda MX-5 Miata, ND Miata, and that is probably the world's best sports car, right? At any price point. I've owned BMW, I've owned a bunch of Toyotas, Suzuki. Whatever I've owned or driven, I don't think they've got the heritage that this car does, right? If you get a Toyota GR Yaris, you know that Akio Toyoda, the chairman and CEO of Toyota, took it upon himself to bring this car to life, right? If you go online and read some of the reports, he wasn't happy with the fact that Toyota did the partnership with BRZ and the Supra. He wanted more from the brand, right? No more boring cars. He wanted a full Toyota effort, and that's what he went away and did. And he involved Tommy Mäkinen as well, who's a rally legend. And then Akio Toyoda, he flipped the GR Yaris, right? He flipped it. And then, you know, the fact that it's got a bespoke engine, bespoke transmission, bespoke all-wheel drive system, Toyota's first go at it for, you know, more than a decade. They took the one out of the RAV4, they rejigged it. Carbon fiber roof. Just a specialness around this vehicle. Whenever I'm driving it and I think about those negatives that I was mentioning, right? The exhaust is pretty poor. You know, the low-down torque, it's gutless, really. You can think of that story, right? And it's a very true story, right? A lot of people might say it's marketing, but I don't think it is, because Toyota literally designed this car for rallying, right? You could say a BMW M car is for marketing, right? Because yes, M has a huge heritage, but today's M2, it doesn't really have that I was going to compete or I'm competing in a rally stage heritage, right? Same with the AMG, and to a large extent, same with the Audi RSs and even the Civic Type R, right? I think the GR cars, despite only existing for a really short time and a time span, they've caught some of the biggest heritage that exists. And I think that makes me love it a lot. And I forgive so many things because of that story, right? It's as if I gave you a Formula One car and you hate, and somehow I made it street legal for you, and then you had to daily it, and you hated dailying it because it was stall everywhere. You had to do like a 30-minute startup procedure. You hated it, right? But you would always respect that car, and you would never want to get rid of it because it's an F1 car. It's a race car, right? And that's kind of what you have here at a price point that many people can afford, right? At a price point that is a hot hatch price point. Civic Type R price point, it's a price point of a Hyundai i30N, and that makes it really endearing. And the final reason this is my favorite car more than any other car is unquantifiable. When I drive this car, the engine sound isn't as good as my BMW was. The acceleration, it can be really good if you're on full boost and Toyota gives you that full boost on that day. Stars have to align. It can be good, right? But generally, you don't get the full boost first, second gear, so the acceleration isn't great. Cornering, obviously, is second to none, so that is pretty much perfect. But the space isn't great. The interior's got plasticky materials, and it's a Yaris. And if you go online, a lot of people, especially the BMW crowd, the German crowd, they don't really respect this car. So it's got some of those negatives, but despite all of that, it's got something I just can't put my hand on. I have a feeling it might be the fact that Toyota built a race car. It is a race car first and a road car second, and that's going to give you a nice feeling no matter what. And I think that's what the GR Yaris pulls off. Yes, I'm not in love with the car, and can I ever be fully in love with a car? I don't know, because I think perfection doesn't exist, and it's more of an internal thing for you to love the car. But I think if there's a car that's ever come close, or if one is ever going to come close, it's probably this one right here. Even though I really want a Civic Type R next, or I think an Audi RS3 would be crazy. I really do think this car has something special that even if I was to get those cars, which I think would be upgrades, I'm not sure they would be able to replicate the feeling this gives me. Yeah, that's all it is. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you next time.